80 to 100 years to correct itself, and there is no economic model that can sustain a culture during that time. In other words, if two sets of parents each it's hard to have 2 million adults enter the workforce in 2026. As the population shrinks, so does the culture. As of 2007, the fertility rate in France was 1.8, England 1.6, Greece 1.3. According to research, in order for a culture to maintain itself for more than 25 years, there must be a fertility rate of 2.11 children per family. With anything less, the culture will decline. Historically, no culture has ever reversed a 1.9 fertility rate. A rate of 1.3, impossible to reverse, because it would take 80 to 100 years to correct itself, and there is no economic model that can sustain a culture during that time. In other words, if two sets of parents each have one child, there are half as many children as parents. If those children have one child, then there are 1/4 as many grandchildren as grandparents. If only 1 million babies are born in 2006, it's hard to have 2 million adults enter the workforce in 2026. As the population shrinks, so does the culture. As of 2007, the fertility rate in France was 1.8, England 1.6, Greece 1.3, Germany 1.3, Italy 1.2, Spain 1.1. Across the entire European Union of 31 countries, the fertility is a mere 1.38. Historical research tells us these numbers are impossible to reverse. In a matter of years, Europe as we know it will cease to exist. Yet the population of Europe is not declining. Why? Immigration. Islamic immigration. Of all population growth in Europe since 1990, 90% has been Islamic immigration. France, 1.8 children per family. Muslims, 8.1. In southern France, traditionally one of the most populated church regions in the world, there are now more mosques than churches. 30% of children ages 20 and younger are Islamic. In the larger cities such as Nice, Marseille, and Paris, that number has grown to 45%. By 2027, 1 in 5 Frenchmen will be Muslim. In just 39 years, France will be an Islamic republic. In the last 30 years, the Muslim population of Great Britain rose from 82,000 to 2.5 million, a 30-fold increase. There are over 1,000 mosques, many of them former churches. In the Netherlands, 50% of all newborns are Muslim, and in only 15 years, half of the population of the Netherlands will be Muslim. In Russia, there are over 23 million Muslims. That's 1 out of 5 Russians. 40% of the entire Russian army will be Islamic. in just a few short years. Currently in Belgium, 25% of the population and 50% of all newborns are Muslim. The government of Belgium has stated 1/3 of all European children will be born to Muslim families by 2025, just 17 years away. The German government, the first to talk about this publicly, recently released a statement saying, "The fall in the German population can no longer be stopped. Its downward spiral is no longer reversible. It will be a Muslim state by the year 2050. Muammar al-Gaddafi of Libya said, "There are signs that Allah will grant victory to Islam in Europe, without swords, without guns, without conquest. We don't need terrorists. We don't need homicide bombers. The 50+ million Muslims in Europe will turn it into a Muslim continent within a few decades." There are currently 52 million Muslims in Europe. The German government said that number is expected to double in the next 20 years to 104 million. Closer to home, the numbers tell a similar story. Right now, Canada's fertility rate is 1.6, nearly a full point below what is required to sustain a culture. And Islam is now the fastest growing religion. Between 2001 and 2006, Canada's population increased by 1.6 million, 1.2 of those immigration. In the United States, the current fertility rate of American citizens is 1.6. With the influx of the Latino nations, the rate increases to 2.11, the bare minimum required to sustain a culture. In 1970, there were 100,000 Muslims in America. Today, there are over 9 million. The world is changing. It's time to wake up. 3 years ago, a meeting of 24 Islamic organizations was held in Chicago. The transcripts of that meeting showed in detail their plans to evangelize America through journalism, politics, education, and more. They said, "We must prepare ourselves for the reality that in 30 years, there will be 50 million Muslims living in America. The world that we live in is not the world in which our children and grandchildren will live." The Catholic Church recently reported that Islam has just surpassed their membership numbers. Some studies show that at Islam's current rate of growth, in 5 to 7 years, it will be the dominant religion of the world. As believers, we call upon you to join the effort to share the gospel message with the changing world. This is a call to action.
Hello. Ooh, sorry guys. Can y'all hear me? Am I on? I can't tell. Okay. Hey guys. My name is Gabby, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm going to be speaking the next 2 days over my mission trip to Spain. We were working specifically with Moroccan Muslims. This is why I was showing this video. Now, it can be kind of terrifying. If you weren't paying attention, shame on you. You should have been. It is. It's terrifying to know that a false religion, especially one that we think is very, very much against Christianity, is growing so large. But could you put up the first slide, please? But despite the fact that that video can be very, very terrifying, I'm here to let you know that Islam's, even though the religion is scary and even though it's growing fast, you don't have to be afraid of the people. Islam is a religion, not the people group. The people group are Muslims. Islam is a religion of Muslims. It's a monotheistic faith regarded as revealed through Muhammad, of the Prophet of Allah. So don't go on to the next slide yet. Is this one on? Hello. Okay, awesome. So before I tell you the basic beliefs of what Islam is, I'm curious. I just want to know what some people think about what Islam is. I'll skip seniors for a little bit because we've had, hey, Jack. Okay, tell me in just a sentence, what do you think the Islam's belief?
They believe that Allah is their God, and they believe that they have to do a lot of works to get to heaven.
Okay, good. Awesome. No, that's not fair. Okay, what do you think?
I think that, well, actually, I don't really know a lot about that religion.
No, that's perfectly okay. A lot of people don't. Let's see. No, that's okay. I'm curious. I want to know, what do you little ones learn? Okay, what do you think you know about Islam?
Islam believes that Allah is their God and that they have to do a lot of works to get into heaven and that they should fight for their beliefs and that they should kill innocent people just to get to heaven.
Okay, I want you to notice what she said. She says that they believe that they have to fight and kill innocent people. Yeah. Let's see. Melanie, what do you think?
Just overall what they believe?
Yeah, just in a sense. What do you
Okay.
think? Maybe one thing you think they believe.
Obviously, you said they're monotheistic, so they believe that Allah is their God. They think that martyrdom is respectable. They believe that Jesus was a prophet and not the Messiah.
Awesome. Good job. No, way to go, guys. Surprise. No, don't be scared of that. That's cool. Okay, can you pull up the next slide? I want you to notice, this is the two, what was your name back there? Blue jacket? Gabby. Ooh, hey, what's up? So I want you to notice, she said she didn't know anything. That's the first common thing. A lot of people don't really know anything about Islam. And what was your name? Chloe. Notice how she said that they believed that it was through fighting and through violent means that their faith came about. And actually, you're right, they do believe in one God. And this God is not, they do not believe that their God is different from our God. So Islam and Christianity have some things in common. And we worship the same God. That is the same. Where you get the difference is when you go below, they believe in the prophet Muhammad. Is this on still? Oh, good. I don't have to hold this. They believe in the prophet Muhammad, and they think that he is the main source of where their Bible comes from. Now, we obviously believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. They do not believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. They do believe in the justice of God. They believe in the imams or the apostles, and they believe in the day of judgment. A lot of their prophets and the ones that came before Muhammad are the same as the ones that we have in the Bible, believe it or not. They believe in Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. They believe the words that they said. The only thing that they don't believe is that our Bible has been corrupted over time. Could you go to the next slide, please? Now, just like we have practices based on our beliefs, we pray before a meal, we go on mission trips, we try to evangelize. They have practices that they put into action based on their beliefs. And their first one is to declare one's belief in God and the prophetic role of Muhammad. The second is to pray 5 times every day. Now, this is where you get your earning your way to what they call paradise. They believe that if you do not pray 5 times every day, and there's specific prayers that they pray, that you are shaming your family. They are not a culture that is driven by sin, right or wrong. We have things that we do and don't do based on what we've been given in the Bible is what's right, what's wrong, sin and whatnot. They're not motivated by sin. They're motivated by shame. So for them, it would be perfectly okay to lie. For them, it would be perfectly okay for a husband to kill their wife, to do anything, to steal, as long as it is protecting their image. And so that's one thing that you have to be careful about when you're going into a conversation with an Islam, is they'll try to dispute and argue on things like, well, that's not right, that's not wrong or anything like that. But they're motivated by shame. And then they have to give to charity. They have to give charity to those in need. Can you go to the next slide? And a lot of these things you'll notice are pretty common. They have to fast from food, water, and other bodily pleasures during daylight hours in the month of Ramadan. While we were in Spain, we were actually there during the month of Ramadan, and one of our teams had the opportunity to break fast with an Islamic family that they met in a park. The father offered to let them come over and break fast. And Christians, mostly, they fast as a way of worship. They fast in order to basically feel what it's like to be hungry. They want to know what it's like to be starving, to be hungry, to be poor, to be destitute. This is why they do that. They think that somehow putting themselves in this position will somehow lift up their spirit, will somehow make them higher in the eyes of Allah. And they have to at least make a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in their lifetime, if possible. Can you go on to the next slide? Okay, here are some myths about Muslims. And I heard this in our Bible class earlier, how jihad is often, like, people think of the word jihad and they automatically go to terrorism. That's not quite it. Jihad is actually, it's Arabic for struggle. And it is not the initiation of violence in the name of Islam. Rather, the religious precept directs Muslims to study, preach, and defend Muslims. So, like, we have a calling, go, make disciples. This is essentially their calling. It was never really intended to be a means of terrorism. The Quran contains much of the basic information told in the Hebrew Bible, as well as additional information. So people will say that, oh no, the Muslim book, the Quran, it's all wrong. There's nothing right about it. And they will dispute you on this, and they will point out in their Quran things that are very, very similar and almost sometimes say the exact same thing as our Bible. And then we come up short, and we're left without words. And we kind of walk away feeling like we didn't really truly defend the Christian faith. So be aware a lot of the times of the arguments that they're going to present to you, and a lot of them is that the Bible is wrong and the Quran is right, and they will essentially point out Bible verses that kind of make you wonder for a second. Can you go on to the next slide? Okay, Islam affirms that Jesus was born of a virgin, that he lived a sinless life, that he performed mighty miracles, and that he will come again at the end of history. It even calls him a word from God, not the word, and this is where you get into the main dispute. It denies that Christ is the Son of God, and it also denies that he died on the cross. The Islams believe that God projected Jesus' face onto another man's body, and that was the man that died while Jesus was running off free. Can you go to the next slide? The vast majority of Muslims are not terrorists. This is my big, big, big point. A lot of the mission trips I've been on, I've worked with Muslims, and they are some of the most friendliest, most hospitable people you will ever meet. Now, does that mean that their religion is right? No. It's still very wrong, and it is growing, and it's huge. But they're not violent people. The majority of them are not. Terrorism within the Islamic community, it's a very, very small number of radicals that are the terrorists. But that violence scares people so much that they see that as somehow a majority. But that's not the case. Most of them are not terrorists. Can you go on to the next slide? Okay, awesome. Now, this is weird, but I have a lot of different Bibles from different religions. Just, you want to be well studied, and that's the thing when it comes to the Islamic faith. They're very, very intelligent people, and they can easily confuse you if you don't know where you stand in your Christian faith. So it's very, very important that you study not only your worldview, but the worldview of the people that you're trying to reach. Hold on. Oh no, it froze. Give me a second. But I have the Quran, and the verses that you see up there are from the Quran. Oh no, it's not working. Okay. Well then, I'll just wait for that for a second. You can go ahead and go on to the next slide, and if I get a hold of those, I'll grab them. Okay, and here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people's hate for Muslims come out, especially when events that involve terrorism start coming out. And the thing is, yes, you can disagree with them, but don't hate them, because being bitter and hating them isn't doing anything for them. It's just going to make you worse, and it can lead people into a lot of trouble when they get older. I've seen you've heard stories before of like people that just hate, Islam so much they go and do some terrible crime when they get older. Hating them is not going to change the situation. It's not going to make you feel any better. Muslims need salvation just as much as anybody else. They're not less deserving. They're not more deserving. They are where we are on the plane of sin. Go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, God loves them. Yes, I know it sounds hard. They've done awful things, but so have we. We're not innocent. Even the Christian church has done awful things, and we have to look past that, and you have to understand that God loves them just as much as he loves us, and they're not a people to be afraid of. You don't have to live in fear when you go onto an airplane that someone's going to bomb it or something like that. You don't have to live in fear. You can choose to live in the peace that God has provided. Will you go on to the next one? Okay, I'll go ahead and skip the statistics because we already had some before, but that video is actually a little old, and so those statistics have actually gotten bigger. Yeah, I know, that's kind of scary, right? Um, it it's crazy. It is. It's growing. It's very, very, very fast. But by educating yourselves and knowing how to approach these people and how they live their lives, you can better understand why they do what they do, how they're going to make arguments with you when you are approaching them. And I would encourage you, if at any point in your life you ever get to meet a Muslim, don't be scared, but start an honest general conversation. And don't just jump straight away to religion. A lot of the times they just find that kind of a turnoff. So start off. That's a lot of what we did. We did street ministry in Spain, which is like what we did in LA my sophomore year. But you just go up to them, hey, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm a visitor. It's so nice to meet you. Is that your kid? Like, just start bringing up conversations. And believe it or not, especially in Spain, the women, they are very, very, very open to what you have to say about Christianity because they are not necessarily oppressed, but they are kind of kept quiet in their faith. And so they would very, very much like to hear your faith, why you believe what you believe, why you're there, why you're even talking to them. If you approach a Muslim, they're just going to be blown away whether or not they say it or not because they know that people don't like them. They know that people are afraid of them. And so for you to come up and to start a conversation with them and say, hey, I'm not afraid of you. Say, hey, I love you despite the fact that I disagree with you. That will just blow their minds away because that doesn't happen to them. People are terrified of them. People are scared of them. And so tomorrow, I'm going to be talking to you specifically about the things that we learned from the missionaries that were working with the Moroccan Muslims and how we applied what we learned out on the streets talking to the Muslims. So that's tomorrow. Bye. See you guys.
I need help stacking chairs. 7 to